Hey everybody, it's Alex Youngblood. I got Brian Haskins here with me. How you doing, man?
Oh, doing great. How's it going?
Good, good. Are you enjoying the weather? Or are you guys getting good weather at least?
It's crazy. So we've had some of the weirdest weather that we've ever had. I'm in St. Louis, obviously you know that, but some of the people that are listening
Yeah.
probably don't. And
Hey, Brian, St. Louis, by the way.
we've gotten a lot of weird weather this year. We've got like a lot more snow than we normally have, and we had kind of some warm weather, and then it got cold again. Yesterday we had a frost, which is
Oh, wow.
not usual for this time of year. We actually have had more snow than areas like Chicago, Michigan, places that usually get a lot of snow. So it's kind of crazy, but starting to get some warmer weather.
Yeah, I'm just going on here, guys, and making sure that we are live, in fact. And if you guys are on my Facebook page, the Wholesaling House's full-time page, not the group, go ahead and share the video as well. And we'll try to get what we got on here. Okay, it looks like we are in the group right now. We are live, so that's good. And I appreciate you guys joining us on here. Matt says we just had a blizzard. Now it's 70. That sounds like Virginia weather for sure.
Right.
So guys, today we're going to talk about some of the biggest hurdles, three biggest hurdles that investors struggle with, and then talk about some ways to overcome them. So we've got a little bit of a schedule of what we're running down on that. But if you guys are on here, go ahead and comment. What are some of your biggest hurdles? And then if we don't cover it here, then we could address it after the call, definitely. And also let us know where you're from. What market are you in? Or just give us a thumbs up, wave, let us know that you're here. And it's going to be a great call. So,
yeah, I'm curious kind of how a lot of this aligns with some of the people on here. Obviously, the way that we kind of determine some of these, hurdles is obviously we talk to a lot of people in our mentoring program, also in the Facebook group. And these are things that kind of seem to come up, over and over and over again. But definitely, if you have specific things that you want us to cover, definitely let us know in the comments. That way we can help you guys out, get your questions answered.
Yeah, Matt says mindset and removal of myself. Yeah, mindset's a huge one. We'll talk about that towards the end of the call. But I was thinking about actually some of that this morning. After my morning workout, I've been trying to get back into my my home garage gym and get going again with that. And it really sparks good creative thoughts. So on a side note, if you guys are trying to get back into working out or whatever, it's good. I recommend it because it really helps your thoughts, your brain, and even your mindset when it comes to this stuff. So. So just like I mentioned, we do have a mentoring or implementation program, and we see a lot of different objections or questions and, or not knowing where to start. And that's one of the biggest things we help people with. So the first thing is a lot of people are like, man, I don't know where to start. Where do I get this thing going? I want to get wholesaling. I want to start making money in real estate, whatever it is, but I just don't know where to get going with this. So, Brian, that's something that you see pretty regularly, correct?
Yeah, and it kind of comes in two different phases. So a lot of people will either focus on, they'll maybe get a list of things maybe they find on YouTube or online, and they think that they have to have all these different things done before they get started. So that's one kind of process that I run across. A lot of people that they think they have to have everything perfect before they get started. Another group of people that I run into, they get to the point to where they just don't know. They don't have kind of an idea of where to get started. So a lot of times it becomes overwhelming and things like that. So it's really kind of weird because there's some people that think they have this huge to-do list of all these things that maybe aren't really that important that they have to get done first. And then you have other people that are, wanting to get started, but just don't really know what to work on or what to focus on.
What would you say are some of those things that they need to have 100% in line before they get going? That whole perfectionism, paralysis of analysis kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
What do you see along those lines?
Yeah, absolutely. So, really, business, one of the most important things, I always tell people this, whether, you work with us or whoever, you got to have the right education. You have to have a good understanding of this business because there are certain things that, you don't necessarily have to have a PhD in real estate to get started wholesaling, but it's a good idea to really have a good understanding of kind of the process understanding of, some of the different terms, the different things like that. So really you want to find either a good mentor or some good base level education. That way you kind of understand the process. I mean, that's really kind of step number one. It's all about taking action, obviously, but you have to have good information first and then take action on the information that you learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, getting started in the business, I mean, this is a people business, right? So one thing you have to understand is you are going to be talking to people, and you should be talking to a lot of people. You've heard that this is a contact sport, and the more people you contact, the better you're going to do. So that's something you just need to be knowing as you're going into it. This is a people business, and you're going to be talking to people, and you don't have to have it 100% right. But if you're talking to people and trying to understand people, where they're at in their lives and whatever their situation is, that's something that's going to go way above and beyond having all this, transactional knowledge and trying to, well, how do I get this deal done and how should I structure it? And I don't know what I do and all that kind of thing. Just talking to people and understanding where they are in their life and what's going on and how you can be a solution to that is going to take you light years above that.
I'll give you a good example about that. So one of the things that when I first got started, that was a big hang up for me. Like, I was new, I was young. A lot of people, they didn't want to meet with me because they didn't think I was going to, be able to help them or buy their house. So one of the things that I realized after kind of talking to a lot of people is that they don't really understand this process either. So they're not going to call you out on, if you make a little slip up or something like that. I mean, just going there, talking to them, kind of listening, figuring out, what kind of situation they're in and looking for ways that you can help them. That's really one of the best ways to learn in this business, because you can analyze it as much as you want, but until you go and actually talk to them, then you're really not going to kind of understand. But that was one of my big hangups was like, I was like, man, these people are going to see right through me. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm saying. But, you have to understand, these aren't professional real estate investors either. They're just normal people kind of like you. So if you just go and talk to them and stuff like that, it's going to really make a big difference for you, as far as kind of getting comfortable with the whole process.
Yeah. And then when it comes to talking as well, be the one who listens more than you talk, right? So if you're listening more than talking, you're going to do light years better than somebody who just wants to sit there and control the whole conversation and talk about how much you know and blah, 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 blah. It's better if you just sit there and listen to what's going on with the person, and then you can help them with that solution. So as you guys are coming on, you new guys that are just joining us now, let us know what it is that maybe you're having difficult, like not knowing where to get started with something, and then we can address that. We've already had somebody just mention as well about mindset being something and trying to get out of the way of yourself and all that kind of thing. And we're going to address that. But as you're coming on, what is it that you're having difficulty getting started with? And we'll address that as we go. The next big one, right? And this is a huge one for everybody. It's like, man, I don't know where to find motivated sellers, right? How do you find the sellers? How do you find the deals? How do I get started with that, right? And there's so many different directions you could go in, right? I mean, Brian, what are some of the, the lists that everybody's just trying to chase down, would you say?
So, the big ones that I hear every single day when I talk to people are bandit signs and absentee owners. Those are like the two things that most people, they hear about on YouTube, or they go into, Facebook groups or blog posts or, different things like that. I mean, those are kind of the big ones. So you hear a lot of, free marketing strategies. People want to get started for free, driving for dollars, door knocking, bandit signs are usually pretty cost effective and stuff like that. But those are the biggies that I hear a lot about. And then for the people that get started with things like direct mail and cold calling, a lot of times their first go-to is going to be absentee owners. And those are things that, those are strategies that have been around forever. People talk a lot about them. They're still taught kind of to this day. But those are the big ones that I hear a lot about.
Yeah, I mean, and they're not necessarily bad going at and chasing after doing bandit signs and doing absentee owners. It's just a volume thing. It's a lot more saturated now than it ever was. So you're just going to have to do a lot more volume in order to do that. But one thing that we recommend is, focus at least on one, maybe two different types of lists or forms of motivated sellers. especially when you're just getting going, because the last thing you want to do is like, okay, I got to get my absentee set up over here. And then I got to get my probate set up over here. And then I got to get my pre-foreclosure set up over here. And then I need to get my CRM, right? I got to get my CRM, because my CRM isn't right, then I can't start marketing. And then you absolutely end up doing nothing. So we recommend that you start on maybe 1 or 2 maybe motivated seller lists. And for you guys that are listening, that are on with us live, what are some lists right now that you are targeting, that you're finding success with, or that you want to target? And we could talk a little bit further about that. But 2 different lists. Let's talk about 2 really good lists that people can target. So last week, we talked about the difference between a distress list and a non-distress list, right? So Brian, if somebody is just getting started, or actually let's ask the people here, what do you guys think if you're just getting started and you have limited marketing money and you're just trying to make this thing a reality for yourself, where should you start? Should you start with distressed or non-distressed? It seems like a very simple question, right? But some people...
Right. Well, while we're waiting on some comments, let's talk a little bit about, so we mentioned earlier bandit signs. We mentioned like absentee owners and stuff like that. So while we're waiting on some comments here, so here's the thing with bandit signs. You know, bandit signs, they've been around forever. People have used them and stuff like that. But one of the things that you have to understand with things like bandit signs is that, you know, you're just putting marketing out there. It's not really very targeted, you know, which we're going to talk about here in a moment. But, you know, you're looking that people are going to reach out to you, people that, you know, may or may not be motivated. They, you know, may not have great properties for sale and stuff like that. So, you know, there's lots of different strategies out there, and some of what we're going to talk about here in a little bit may be better options for you than a lot of those really popular marketing strategies that you hear about, just because of the kind of market that we're in, like you mentioned earlier, with saturation and stuff like that. Yeah,
absolutely. So Matt says distressed is good to go after. Somebody says after back taxes, pre-foreclosure. Another one, John Merriweather says. So yeah, I mean, we're starting to see a little bit of a common theme there. 3 lists combined for motivation. There you go, Matt. That's a list stack right there. Go ahead and comment what type of stack that you like, Matt, when you're talking about a combined motivation list. But yeah, so the difference real quick between distressed and non-distressed. Distressed means they have a reason and a timeline to sell. Non-distressed means they don't, meaning it's just equity or an absentee. There's no other motivation along with it. That's the difference between distressed and non-distressed. And one of the things when you're targeting, Brian, what would you say would be a really good number 1 list to target when you're just getting started for motivated sellers?
Yeah. So, I mean, really, you know, you have a couple good options. I mean, like you said, you really want to focus on the people that, number 1, are distressed, you know, but it's also a really good idea to focus on people that need to sell quickly, or a timeline. Those are good things to look at. Obviously, pre-foreclosures is a good place to start. You know, tax delinquent is a good place to start, things like that, because those people, not only are they motivated because they're distressed, but they're also in a situation to where they may lose their house if they don't act upon it. So those are always really good places to start. You know, if you
they've got a timeline.
Exactly. So when you think about this kind of stuff, whenever in this business, you know, this business isn't, you know, super difficult when it comes to finding motivated sellers, but you just have to kind of put yourself in their place. Like, what kind of a situation would you be in to where you're going to be ultra motivated, you know? And what is that distress kind of level? And obviously, if you're going to lose your house, that's a major motivation factor there, you know?
You know, it's funny with pre-foreclosures. I mean, even some of these people think they have all the time in the world. Like I was talking to one the other day, my assistant brought it up, and I was like, she's like, yeah, you know, it was like April, I think it was like April 1st that we got the lead. And they're like, yeah, the foreclosure's not till the 25th. We have plenty of time.
Right.
So it's really funny, you know, how some people are like, oh, we have all the time in the world. And I'll give you one tip here, right? When somebody you're dealing with pre-foreclosure, right, just keep following up with them. They may say, oh, yeah, the problem's been solved. Oh, yeah, we've worked it out, right? But how many times do you see people come in and out of pre-foreclosure, in and out, in and out, in and out? So it's because they think they've got it solved, and then the problem just keeps coming back again, right? Or they think they got it under contract with somebody and they just drugged them around and told them what they wanted to hear, and now, you know, they're in a really bad spot. So when somebody tells you something, listen to it. don't just take it as, oh, they're not ready to sell now, or I missed that one. Put it on the follow-up list and get back in touch with it as soon as possible. Matt says 3-year tax delinquent, water shut off, and code violation. Matt, do you actually have access to those type of lists? Because that's a huge, that would like seem like that list would be like 5 people to me.
Right. Yeah. Super small.
3 years, but that's not a bad thing. If it's 5 people, make it a goal to reach every single one of those people when it comes to that kind of list. And you could use reiskiptrace.com to skip trace those and get those owners and talk to them. So pre-foreclosure or tax delinquent, that's what you brought up first, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a great list to get. You got to go talk to the right people at the county when it comes to getting that. That's something that when we talk with our students, we show them who in the county they need to talk to, who is the exact, actually there's a title for somebody who you need to talk to down at the county when it comes to pulling the tax delinquent list. So what's another list, Brian, that you would say for motivated sellers?
Another list, there's lots of good ones out there. Another one that would be a pretty good distressed list. Code violations, sometimes in certain circumstances, maybe people that have multiple violations or they're multiple repeaters. Probate is not necessarily really distress per se, but a lot of times people are going to be looking to sell those houses. So there's lots of good options out there.
Yeah. So if you're going to focus on 2 different or really good lists, I would say tax delinquent. And if we're using it along the same parameters, like if you're going to the city to get the list, tax delinquent code violation is great. And you could target one or the other, or you could stack them together and target both of them. And that's one of the things we do within our program as well with our students is we give them access to the list stacker, and then they can stack the list together and they can see who's tax delinquent and who's code violation, send it off, get it skip traced, and then set a goal to contact every single person on that list. Just like you were working a regular sales lead list. Like if you ever been in sales, I've been in sales, and you've been given a list of names of people that these are your leads who you need to contact one by one by one. That's the way you would approach that. So
now the beauty of these lists too is that a lot of times they're mentioned a lot. A lot of people talk about tax delinquent, code violation, stuff like that, but the problem is, and we run into this a lot. We talk to people that say, I tried to get that list. I tried 10 times, and every single time I was shut down. So here's the thing. They're not easy to get a hold of, but the best things in life are not easy. It's the kind of stuff that you have to work really hard to get. We have some really specific shortcuts that we share with our students to show them how to get these deals and leads. But, even though they're popular leads, a lot of times people will give up before they actually acquire these lists. So a lot of times these are still really good quality lists that you can target in your area.
Yeah. And guys, be thinking of your questions as well, like we were talking about. Right now, we're going to talk into how to evaluate a property when it comes to comparables. That's like a huge issue that people have when it comes to getting in this business. I don't know what properties are worth, right? But number one, we talked about not knowing where to get started. So if you have questions about that, post that in the comments below. And then also finding motivated sellers. If you have a comment about what list to target or a question about that, post that in the comments below. And we'll address that as we come to it. So comping properties or coming up with what a property is worth, right? It seems to be a huge issue for people because they're just like, man, I don't know what properties are worth. I don't know what the repairs are and all that kind of stuff, right? And one thing I will say is when we're in the wholesale business, right, we are not necessarily caring about what we're going to flip that property for because it's an as-is business. It's all about the as-is side, right? So what does that mean? That means we need to find what the as-is properties are selling for. So whether you are assigning a contract, double closing, taking a property down, relisting it and selling it, it's the same process. It's all about what that as-is value is, right? So all you need to worry about when it comes to finding out what your properties are worth or what they're worth is finding what the other as-is properties sold for, right? So, and this can be hidden a little bit when it comes to looking at it. Reason being is because if somebody already bought and sold a property, all you see is the ARV on the flip side, right? All you see is, oh, this just sold for $250,000 on Zillow, right? Like if you don't have an MLS and you're just looking at Zillow, and all you do is see that price for $250,000, you see an ARV. But Brian, what is the trick to finding out what that property sold for when it was an as-is property?
Yeah, go back and look, the previous sale price. So, go back in the tax records, or I guess in some cases they have that information in Zillow sometimes, right?
Yeah. You can go under Zillow and look under the property history, and you can say, oh, that property sold. It was in really good shape. Looks really good, right? Go under Zillow, look at the property history, and then you can see, oh, it sold for this, right? So when you're evaluating properties and they're in a similar area, right? Not all the way across town or across the railroad tracks or across even major intersections and stuff like that. They're in the same little, pocket square, whatever you want to call it. If that property is right within that same square footage and right within that, you are then going to know that if I buy or if I'm contracted to buy a property that's 10,000, 15, 20,000 less, I am in good shape, right? And that's what you need to worry about. So and this even comes down to making offers with people. When you're making offers, a lot of people get frozen. They get stuck. They're like, man, I don't know how to make an offer, right? Well, if you simply look and find what the property sold for before it was fixed up and sold, and your offer is somewhere around that price, then that's something that you're really going to do well on, because you're making offers based on the as-is situation. I mean, one thing I see that sellers do is they try to bring you to that ARV property, right? They try to bring you to that retail price. They're like, yeah, well, this house just sold for $250 right around the corner, right? And you're like, but your house is not fixed up. It's not in that shape.
Right. Yeah. Another thing that I hear all the time too, when I go on an appointment, is that neighbors lie to each other about what they sell their houses for, which I don't understand, because it becomes public information. Or sometimes people will go off of the Zillow Zestimate or something like that, to where it's not necessarily a real number, and the best thing you can do is to have, those as is type properties and, the comps, print them out off Zillow. Maybe it'll have some pictures. Maybe it'll have some stuff like that. And you can show them, say, look, well, this property did sell for that much, but look how nice the inside was. There's all these pictures that a realtor took where it's been completely fixed up or something along those lines, That way you can kind of justify and kind of bring them back down to reality, because a lot of people, they're just going to be way off numbers wise. They're just going to, think that their house is worth so much more. Yeah,
absolutely. So, I mean, that's really important with setting that expectation. One thing that now, so let's say you have access to the MLS. Say you're a little bit more advanced. You've cracked that code, right? One thing when you get access to the MLS, it's just a simple sort that you would do, right? So if you're looking in that neighborhood and then you're simply looking for what property sold for, go back a year and a half, right? And then download that list and then sort it. And then you can see the same properties, right? Sort it by property address. And then you can see the same property listed twice, and you can see what it sold for when it was as is, and then what it sold for when it was fixed up. And then if you're making offers around that as is number, when you see it was sold for the first time, well, then you're going to be in good shape. Again, you don't need to get hung up on all the other things, like when it comes to repairs, when it comes to trying to figure out what that magic ARV is, all that kind of stuff. You just need to worry about the as is type stuff. That's where you need to be. And then when you talk to a seller, that's exactly the way you handle it. Obviously, so let's say I'm talking to a seller and they're like, well, what can you give me for my property, right? I'm like, well, obviously, Mr. Seller, we are looking at an as-is situation here, right? Because if you wanted to sell this property in fixed up shape, you would have made the repairs and listed it, right? So this is an as-is situation. So what we do is we look at for what as-is property sold for, and then come up with an offer based around those numbers. That seems fair, doesn't it? Now, that sounds good, right? That's a good speech. but sometimes sellers are still pretty funny. They want that price in fixed up shape in an as-is situation, and that's just an education thing at that point.
Yep. And that's why it's always good to kind of bring something to kind of justify what your offer is. Make them physically see things. Some people are going to be like, okay, well, that makes more sense. Other people are just going to be like, nope, I still want retail. And you know what? Eventually, they may get hit with the reality dose. They may talk to 5 other people who hit them even lower than you hit them, and they finally come back and say, look, I'm ready to sell to you. You just never know.
And that's why follow-up is so key. So, all right, guys, we're going to go through the questions now. So if you guys had some questions along the way, that's great. Ask your questions here. Just post them in the comments, and we're going to address some of these really good questions here that we've got here. So I'm just scrolling through. And guys, keep in mind to join us every 1 o'clock Eastern, Tuesday and Thursday. We will be here making a commitment to bringing you great content, as well to giving you the best information that we can, and then answering your questions and such. So make sure you're here Tuesday, Thursday at 1 o'clock Eastern. All right, so let's see here. So Matt talked about having a mindset issue. Now, I guess I'll ask you, Matt, to clarify that a little bit when you're talking about mindset. But like I said, what I was talking about today is, what's amazing when it comes to mindset, one thing you want to do is you want to put yourself in a place of gratitude, right? You want to be thankful for the things that you have around you. You want to be thankful for the opportunity that we have, right? The awesome thing is, right, if we have problems in life, and this sounds funny, right? Money solves it, right? So if we have a $5,000 problem, it's not like we have to go out and try to figure out how to work a certain amount of hours to try to make this extra $5,000, right? I mean, we have the ability to leverage value, right? You're in this business, you're either creating value in whether it's like a rehab or a new construction, or you're leveraging value when that comes to, from the wholesale side of it. So we have the ability to leverage value and take that and turn it into money. Literally, we don't have to be a slave to the time clock. We don't have to be a slave to our own dollar figure on our head for whatever you're worth by time, whatever it is, $10 an hour, 15, 20, 30, 40, whatever it is, we're not limited by that. We have the ability to create money literally by leveraging value that's already out there. And all we have to do is put ourselves in front of enough opportunities, and it's definitely going to happen. So Matt says, have the mindset to buy anything such as apartment buildings, hiring people. It's just a hurdle to get over, right? To buy anything such as apartment buildings, hiring people. So we'll talk about hiring people, right? How about that real quick? The mindset when it comes to that. The mindset to that is almost treat it like a marketing campaign, right? If you're doing a marketing campaign for like $2,000, whatever it is, $2,500, you're giving that marketing campaign 30, 60 days or whatever to work itself out. And if it doesn't, you move on. You drop it, you move on to the next thing. When you're hiring somebody, I struggled with this for the longest time too. When you're hiring somebody, all you have to figure out is you're going to commit to this person for maybe a month, maybe 2, maybe 3 months, whatever it is. And then you're going to say, okay, let's say it's a lead manager or a deal manager. It's going to cost you maybe $2,000 a month, or $1,500 a month, whatever it is, for 3 months. And that's it. And if you commit to that, like it's a marketing campaign and it's not working out, then you cut it off and you move on. It just is what it is. I mean, Brian, what do you say when it comes to like hiring people and having a mindset?
For me, my mindset has always been kind of, hire slow, fire fast. It's one of those things to where 9 times out of 10, when people in this business hire virtual assistants or hire employees and stuff like that, they do it before they're ready. There's great things that you can outsource, certain small tasks and stuff like that. But when it comes to like actually hiring someone, you need to make sure that you're prepared, you have the right systems, you have things in place to where they understand exactly what they're going to do. You have to make sure that you're going to put the time aside to train them and do that. And you want to make sure that it's the right person because, that's a hard part. The other thing that I've always found hiring people is that, definitely trust your gut. If something, after you hire them, if it doesn't work out or if they're not, doing things after a month. You give them the proper training, but if it's not working out after a month or so, then more than likely, no matter what excuse they have, it's probably not going to work out. So you definitely want to make sure that you move on. But it's always a good idea, if you're going to hire someone, just have really good systems in place. That way you're not spending weeks and months and, almost years training people. You're going to have everything set up to where it's not going to be a huge detriment to your business if you do have to move on to somebody else.
Yeah. So like documenting, right? Documenting your training. So that way it's not like, okay, got to go back and do the same thing all over again. You just say, here, watch these videos and let me know if you have any questions, right?
Yep, exactly.
So documenting is really good. So Matt, hopefully that helped you on the hiring side of it. Let me see here. All right, let's see. Nick says, trying to get started, don't know how the contracts work. So Nick, we're not attorneys by any stretch of the imagination, so can't explain from a legal standpoint. But what we can explain is the flow, right? So first, we get a contract with the seller, and the contract with the seller is a simple agreed upon price for with a time frame on it that we're going to pay $50,000 and we're going to close in 30 days, right? So that solidifies our position. We're securing that value, like I was talking about, right? So now I've got a contract that secures that value of that property at $50,000, right? So now I'm in that position to where the next side of it is what, Brian?
Well, it would either be if you're going to assign it, the assignment contract, or if you're going to, do a double close, then it would be just another purchase agreement.
Yeah. I mean, it's really simple. I would recommend talking to a local real estate attorney. I'm sure he has a contract for your state, whatever it is, that you can use. We've got contracts that we have in our implementation program that we let our students use, and we always recommend that you have an attorney look over it. But contracts are really not something to be scared of. All it is you're agreeing to a certain price and a certain time frame, and that's it. All right, somebody is Irma buys house and says cash buyers for land, trying to find cash buyers for land. Same exact process. I'll give you a tip, right? Tip right here is look for the new construction properties in your area, and then look to see who bought those new construction properties and who's the person that's listing it, even the agent, because that agent probably works with that builder over and over and over again, and you can contact that agent and say, hey, who's buying your, who are you listing these properties for? And more often than not, they will hook you up because they want to get more deals that they can sell to for the builder and create. And that's what they do for a living. So that's that. Chris says, seller will not provide their number. How can I present my offer with also leaving room for negotiation?
That's an easy one. Like a lot of times what I like to do is, if you're talking with somebody and they won't give you a number, I mean, a lot of people, they think that, the old negotiation term where, the first person that puts a number out there loses, a lot of people think that. So, I mean, what I'll do is I'll kind of just make a little joke. I'll say, all right, well, how about I give you like $5,000 for the house or something like that. And then they always laugh and they're like, no, I mean, I'm not going to take $5,000. So then I tell them, okay, look, we know what you're not willing to take. What are you willing to take? And a lot of times that'll kind of lighten it up a little bit. If they're still stuck on it, and they're kind of being weird about it, then just go ahead and throw a number out there. I mean, if lighten the situation up, kind of making them laugh doesn't work, then they're just being weird, about it. I mean, they kind of just think in their mind that, if they say the number, then, they're going to lose out on the negotiation. But
I'll give you a tip, right? So Chris, when you're dealing with a seller who does not want to give you a number or whatever it is, it's a common problem, common situation. Mm-hmm. I always bring it back to what the properties are selling for in the area. Mr. Seller, oh, you remember that property over on Main Street, right? Yeah. Well, that one actually sold for $50,000. It was an as-is property, very similar to what you have here. Is that, considering that was an as-is property and it sold for that, how much were you looking to get? Or would you consider for selling somewhere around that price? So you're making an offer without making an offer. Hopefully that helps. John says, once you skip trace a list, is your email to the seller is the same as your yellow letter or postcard? So for those that are emailing sellers, that's not something that I've done a whole bunch, but if you're emailing a seller and you're doing it in a one-off situation, I would just be really cordial with it. Hey, I saw your house on so-and-so, maybe interested in buying it. So yeah, I guess similar to a yellow letter.
Yeah, it's really situational. I mean, when it comes to emails, that's not anything you're going to want to do in a mass format. It just doesn't work. It's not something that's going to be helpful for you. But if it's in a very small, personalized situation and stuff, that'd be kind of the route that I would take as well.
Yeah, in a mass format, I mean, a lot of people can get themselves in trouble, right? Because you might send it out with some, big mass provider, and it's going to get marked as spam, and then your deliverability is bad. And one bad thing you could do with that is you could tie it to like your domain, your website that you have, right? And then your domain is going to get flagged. So definitely, mass emails, you got to be careful with that for sure. Ryan says, consistently getting motivated seller leads or creating a solid inbound marketing system. Yeah, I mean, Ryan, that's what we specialize in when it comes to our implementation program, right? I mean, right here on this call, we can't lay out an entire system and everything, but we have an implementation program in which we take somebody who knows absolutely nothing, or whether you've been in this business a while and you just want a little bit of a fresh look or fresh guidance on things, we can help you set up a marketing system. In fact, one of the first things we do on our first one-on-one phone call is we set up a marketing plan that works specifically for you. So whether you've got a big marketing budget, we can set up a campaign that works with that. Or if you got a small marketing budget, we can help you with a campaign that works for that. So when it comes to setting up a marketing plan, it all comes down to consistency, but we can also give you a leg up on the competition with that, because we've been doing this. I mean, between Brian and myself combined, 30 years. I'm not 30 years, but him 15 and me 15, right? Sounds good. 30 years, right? So we've seen a lot of different market cycles, and we've seen people come and go, and we've seen different marketing things and all that kind of stuff. And right now we know what works, and we're helping people set up those campaigns and get things going. So check that out.
I just posted a link.
Did you post a link? Okay, cool. So Brian posted a link if you're interested in scheduling a strategy session. We'll talk about it and see if it's a fit, and if not, no big deal.
Yeah, we have a very strategic kind of marketing process that we run all of our students through. It depends a lot on your budget. It depends a lot on kind of your time commitment. It depends on a lot of different things, but we'll recommend a very specific marketing plan and work together with you to get something that's going to work out for you to kind of help you hit those goals and really make sure that it's going to work out for what you can allot to the business.
And not only just setting the goals, but holding you accountable to the goals, which is so important, right? So we've got scorecards that we give you that basically spell out what your goals are, and they even show you where you're at. And then as you're going through it, it shows you, what you need to do to hit those goals. Really good stuff, because you can set all the goals you want, but if you don't hold yourself accountable or have anybody to hold you accountable, then it's just, it's not something that's not going to work so well. So that's one thing that we really like within the program. All right. Anybody have any other questions? While people are thinking about maybe some more questions, Brian, do you have any closing thoughts?
No. Hopefully this helps some people out. I mean, like I said, we tried to make this video today to cover some of the common hurdles, but we're always looking for more ideas. So make sure you leave some comments if you have some ideas for stuff you want to cover. And anybody that is looking for some extra help, definitely reach out. reiaccelerator.com/mentor. That's a great link that you guys can go to. What happens whenever you go there is you're able to schedule a call with either me or Alex. And on the call, basically what we'll do is just kind of look at your business, kind of see where you're at, and kind of what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish, whether you're new, just looking at your first deal, or if you're looking to take your business to the next level. And we'll just talk to you about kind of, what those goals are and what we can do to help. And if we think it would be a good fit, we may invite you into the program. The program is typically about 6 months long, where you get to work with me and Alex. And we'll just kind of work over the different hurdles in your business and help you kind of achieve the goals that you're looking for.
Yeah, and the really cool thing about it too is really the customizability of it, and the ability to hold you accountable, and the group coaching calls that we have, and all that kind of stuff really helps propel people forward. So, guys, if you don't have any other questions, keep in mind that every Tuesday, Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, we are here. We will be bringing different topics to you. And one thing I'm really excited about is we're actually going to be bringing on some of our successful students and talking to them about how their experience with the program was, and where they were and where they're at now, and all that kind of thing. So super excited about that. So guys, 1 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday, Thursdays, be paying attention to whether it's the email box or the Facebook group or page. We look forward to bringing you some more great content. Share this page.
Exactly. Share it. Make sure you guys like it, because if not, we can't get it out to more people. So we're trying to help out as many people as we can. So make sure if you haven't already, just definitely hit the like button, share button for sure.
Absolutely. Oh, looks like we've got another question here when it comes to cash buyers. Part 2 from part 1 on cash buyers for land. This is virtual. So is that process still the same, finding new construction? Absolutely. I mean, you can be virtually local. I mean, you can go on Zillow or whatever it is if you don't have access to MLS, and you can see the new construction in the area. In fact, you can even go on Zillow and sort for new construction, so that all you do is see is new construction and do the exact same thing. So good question. Ryan, do you recommend marketing a deal to your cash buyer before having a deal under contract if the seller is willing to work with you?
No,
you can't do that, man.
You got to be real careful.
That's illegal. You don't want to do that. We try to help you do legal things. And one thing is, you have to have a contract that secures your position in the deal and gives you the ability to either close on the deal yourself, do a double close, or assign it. Don't do that. Absolutely definitely do not do that. Do you use the new leads site you shared? New leads site that I shared.
Was it REI? What was the one you had the other day?
I think it's this right here. Let me put it up here. I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah, so basically I use that in a specific way, right? So the cool thing is it's got comps that come with it, but also you can get lists for really, really cheap. One thing though that I would say is, within our mentoring program, we have a different way of breaking things down that you can't do with anything else. However, if you're just looking for strict equity lists and updated equity lists that show different mortgage transaction data and stuff like that, that software that I posted is really, really good for that. So yeah, definitely check that out if that's what you're asking. Yeah, ARV comps and other things. So yeah, yep, Matt, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And yes, I absolutely use that. And it's absolutely a really good alternative to the MLS because it brings up MLS properties that have comps or have pictures that you can see and all that kind of thing. So yeah, definitely check that out. All right, any other questions? If not, I think we will close it out here. Great call, Brian. I appreciate it, as always.
Sounds good. See you guys.
All right, see you.